And just to begin, can you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
I process incidents of abuse and misuse relating to IU's computer network. My primary responsibility is handling of the DMCA takedown notices relating to file sharing activity.
Okay. So basically just starting off, what is file sharing and how does it work?
Well, file sharing is the act of sharing any sort of file from your computer to other users on either your local network or the internet. In terms of how it works, there are multiple different methods. One popular option is BitTorrent, and that's a very distributed method and where there's no server needed to make that communication happen. Essentially, it's a peer-to-peer network where your computer communicates with another computer and transfers parts of a file to where you can eventually compile all of the parts of that file into the total piece.
And why is file sharing illegal?
Well, file sharing in and of itself is not actually illegal. The illegal part of it comes when when copyrighted work is being shared. And the copyright holders actually monitor file sharing networks for that activity. In terms of it being against IU policy, once again, it's not. Only when it is involving copyrighted work is when we say file sharing is a bad thing. An example of how it can be used legitimately would be for a researcher transferring large data sets, upwards of gigabytes of data. It's much faster to use BitTorrent to do that rather than a standard file transfer protocol or over a web server.
So basically then how does IU look and research between the copyrighted and the illegal file sharing? What's the process? How do they investigate those two to see which is being done illegally and which is being done legally?
Sure. We only respond to complaints of abuse that we receive. We don't monitor IU's network at all. So for us, it's not about trying to differentiate between the two. Like we said, it's not against policy, so if someone wants to engage in that activity, it's okay. For us to be notified, though, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act requires that the copyright holder send us a formal takedown notice stating that the activity was happening.
Okay. And okay, does IU search? You don't search for. What actions does IU take when they do discover someone is illegally downloading or sharing files?
Well, it depends on the person's affiliation with the university, whether they're a student or a staff member. It also depends on if they've received an offense before. For a student who's receiving their first offense, they're given 36 hours to complete a copyright tutorial and quiz. It's a 19-question tutorial with a 10-question true-false quiz. They have to complete it with a score of 100%. And that covers IU's stance on illegal file sharing and also generally how the law works in the U.S. regarding file sharing. Now, assuming they complete that within 36 hours, there are no further sanctions. Now, all students are assessed a $50 copyright violation processing fee. That's a cost recovery method for the university since this isn't normal activity. For a second offense for a student, that's a 2-week network block. We don't disable the user account, but we make it so you can't connect a personal device to IU's network. Now, there is also a referral to the Office of Student Ethics for a second offense, and that you would meet with a student ethics investigator and discuss what you need to do to prevent this from happening in the future. And if someone receives a third offense, they are permanently blocked from IU's network. They can still log into STC, computers and log in the labs, but connecting a personal device will not happen as long as they're affiliated with IU.
Okay. What are some easy ways students can stay legal, basically, when they're looking to download files or things of that nature?
Sure. If you're trying to basically be safe online and not take those risks, first and foremost, we say don't use peer-to-peer software. Even though it is not illegal, it is risky software to have. Beyond the aspect of illegal file sharing, you can get viruses, malware, your personal information can be exposed. Lots of bad things can happen. If you do choose to use that software, make sure that you're only downloading or uploading files that you have a right to. If it's a music work or any work for that matter, which you are not the author of that, unless you have explicit written permission from the copyright holder, you can't do that. So it's important to know what you're uploading. Most people will turn off uploading as somewhat of a precautionary measure. And beyond that, use legal services like iTunes or the new Napster or anything like that allows you to legally acquire that work.
Okay. What is IU doing to increase illegal downloading and file sharing awareness, if anything?
Sure. Awareness is actually something that we try to target pretty frequently for all campuses and for students and staff, primarily because if we can increase our awareness about it, we know that we can solve this problem. We have a website, filesharing.iu.edu, that goes over all of the details of what illegal file sharing is and what you can do to protect yourself. There are posters around campus. We actually recently contracted a graphic design artist to roll out a new file sharing campaign. You may have seen the Are You Legal t-shirts or posters, basically similar to that, but new branding, new graphics, and we hope to roll that out in the next year or so. And we also have in our annual notification to students, among a variety of other university information, the illegal file sharing is now required to be included in there. So there's quite a bit of information that gets out there. And of course on move-in day in the dorms, you know, at the tech tables, we have that as a talking point for all the staff members there as well.
Cool. How can students become involved with awareness or UITS in general?
Well, there are quite a few different opportunities in terms of awareness, especially. You know, if you see that your friend or roommate is engaging in file sharing activity or downloading, you know, it's pretty easy to get caught. And you can say, hey, do you know that you can get caught with that and get a $50 fine? Or even potentially, you know, go to court and have to deal with the copyright holder directly. So, you know, being a good friend can help quite a bit. In terms of actually getting involved, you know, there are certainly opportunities with the Support Center and Technology Center Consulting to do that. And we just recommend, you know, generally it goes back to the awareness of trying to be as informed as possible and being a good student and helping out each other.
Okay. What changes, if any, do you see coming to the file sharing debate in the near future?
Well, I don't see too much changing actually. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act was passed in 1998. That's still on the books, is not likely to change. If anything, they're going to enforce harsher penalties for people illegally sharing files. Universities have recently been required by legislation to have a procedure in place to handle these notices. So in terms of the university level and how we respond to it, we don't anticipate any changes. In the private sector, it's certainly possible that internet service providers will change their stance on illegal file sharing. There's a lot of pressure from the copyright holders on Comcast and Time Warner to start handling those notices of abuse and start kicking subscribers off of their networks.
Okay. What is your opinion, just kind of from a personal standpoint? There's an argument in terms of musicians or you know, filmmakers that file sharing sometimes can, you know, benefit their career and that they're getting their, you know, their media out there in terms. But then there's also the counter argument where, you know, they're losing the ability and the finances. People aren't paying rightfully for that content that's being viewed. So, you know, there's kind of an interesting dichotomy where my material is being put out for free to the masses, yet at the same time I'm losing potential, you know, stakeholders. So what is your personal opinion maybe on that?
Sure. Well, I think that there is definitely a fine line between promoting yourself and getting that exposure versus giving your music away for free. Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails is a very good example of this. He actually, their last album, put it out for free online. You had the option of paying money. You could put in a dollar amount and charge it to your card. But if you wanted to pay nothing, that was okay too. So I think a lot of artists are recognizing, especially when they're just starting out, that they can do that, get their name out there, get popular, and then have a method of protecting that music. And usually that method of protecting it's found through the Recording Industry Association of America or whatever label that they're with. You know, I think most artists would be wise to use, you know, emerging technologies like peer-to-peer file sharing to spread their name, because that's only going to help them in the long run.
And maybe could you just go over earlier, as you indicated to me, kind of the UITS expansive like reach on all the other universities?
Sure.
Yeah, just kind of maybe your entity in general.
Okay. So the Information Policy Office is a division within the Office of the Vice President for Information Technology. We are a counterpart with University Information Technology Services, and we serve all 8 campuses within the Indiana University system. So what that means is that I can receive a takedown notice or notice of abuse for someone here in Bloomington or someone in South Bend.